Okay, tools necessary for installing the Barricade HD stubby winch bumper on the 2019 through 2023 Ford Ranger. Obviously, some safety equipment, definitely eyeglasses because you're going to be cutting. Gloves come in handy, especially when you're handling some of the sharp metal. Some sort of cutting device. I used an angle grinder with a cut disc. You could use a hacksaw and some patience. I also have a small right angle die grinder just to clean up some of the cuts. Not completely necessary. You could absolutely use a hand file. Nice but not necessary is also a impact gun with some impact sockets. You'll need a 21, 18, 16, 13, 10, and 8mm sockets, along with the corresponding wrenches for at least the 18, 16, and 10. The rest of them are useful but not obviously necessary. 4mm Allen wrench. I also had a 4mm 1/4-inch driver, make things a little bit easier. Assortment of ratchets, at least one flex head ratchet. Nice but not necessary to have an electric or air ratchet. Very useful. Have a clip removal tool. These are cheap. Definitely worth having in your toolbox if you don't already have one. This is another style of clip remover tool. I don't think I use this on this job. Couple screwdrivers, at least a Phillips head. The right angle drive was handy, but again, not necessary. Some side cutters. I used electrical tape. You could use masking tape to mask out your cuts. Good set of adjustable pliers or wrenches, and a persuader hammer came in handy several times to adjust the fit of the bumper. A few additional items that would be good to have is certainly an extra set of hands if you have them. If not, a good set of blocks or cribbing to be able to support the bumper while you're securing it in place. I also used my floor jack to help adjust the level of the bumper. So you could use the jack that comes with the truck, or if you have a hydraulic floor jack, that's handy too. Good lighting, obviously very important. I had several different shop lights going. Obviously I was filming, so it was a little bit more challenging, but at least maybe a good headlamp and a shop light to see what you're doing. The kit's pretty, it comes with all the hardware that you need for sure. There weren't any parts that were missing. The instructions were pretty spotty. I had to reread them multiple times and kind of found myself working out of order because it just didn't make a whole lot of sense to follow the order that they were suggesting. All told, it took me about 4 hours, but again, I was filming. If you have an extra set of hands and you're pretty comfortable working on vehicles, then you could probably do this in 2 to 3 hours. Overall, felt like it was a pretty decent job. No real complaints with the bumper itself. Everything fit well. It looks really nice. Feels very sturdy, and the Badlands 9,500 pound winch fit in there very nicely. I do believe it will also hold the 12,000 pound winch, but I didn't confirm that. Anyway, hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, and good luck with your project. First, we're going to go ahead and drop the skid plate. To do that, it's going to require a 16mm socket. Easiest to drop the front two first. And then you just loosen the back two. They're keyed, so you can slide this out without dropping it completely. Just slide that forward and go ahead and move it out of the way. We'll remove the protective tow hook boot just by pulling it forward. A lot easier to do on a warm day where this rubber is pliable. Pull it down and then just slide it forward, releasing the back. It should come right off. We'll remove the front tow hooks again with a 16mm impact socket. These are again keyed. You can just loosen the back one and then this whole assembly will slide off. but we're going to remove it completely for this purpose. Next, we're going to do the same on the other side. And those are out of the way. We'll remove the front license plate holder. It's held on at the bottom by two 10mm screws. And then it just has some locking tabs on the back that you can access by reaching underneath the bumper and push those up. And the whole assembly should slide off. We're going to remove the front plastic bumper by removing 4 10mm bolts on the bottom. We'll continue to remove the plastic bumper by removing the clips from the front. There's 4 underneath the bumper. And then now the whole front bumper should just pop off with clips. But be careful not to pull too hard because the wiring harness for the parking sensors are still connected. Next, we're going to remove the wiring harness from the front parking sensors by pressing down on these black tabs and sliding the connectors out. Now we can set this aside and we'll come back later and remove our parking sensors. Removing the parking sensors is very easy. There's 2 tabs to the top and bottom. Just pull those aside with your finger and the whole sensor will just pop right out. And we're going to do the same on the other side. Next, we're going to remove the bumper by removing these 3 21mm nuts on each side. And be careful to support the bumper. I'm using some jack stands underneath to prevent it from falling once we remove these. I'm going to leave that one on loose to support the bumper while we attack the other side. Now with the bumper supported on the bottom, we're going to remove the last 2. Not included in the install instructions, you do have to remove the retaining tab from the plastic mud guard and that is a 8mm fastener. And we're going to do that on both sides. Now our front bumper should come free. Definitely easier with two people. We need to go ahead and disconnect the front wiring harness. And that connection tucks right underneath the right side of the bumper, and there's just one quick connect to remove it. Okay, removing the front wiring harness is quite a challenge by yourself. It can be done if you support the bumper, but just be very careful. This thing's under tension the second the bumper drops from the bolts. Found it was easiest to go ahead and use my clip tool to pop this loose from the frame. To get to this locking tab on the top, push down on that, slide the connector out to disconnect. Now the bumper's free. Now we can go ahead and pull the bumper off completely and set it down on our blanket. Next, if your vehicle is equipped with it, we need to remove the front radiator splash tray, and it's just held in place with a couple of these plastic clips, one on each side. To finish removing the front radiator splash tray, there are also two plastic retaining clips on the back left and right side. They're very difficult to get to, and a long-handled clip removal tool is about your best bet. The instructions say that this splash tray is not able to be reinstalled, so if we break these clips, it's probably not the end of the world. One is out. And it is just very difficult to get the right angle on this. Let's see if we can just pry it free. Okay. I think that might be your best bet unless you have a specialty tool. We'll go ahead and attack the other side. And again, I'm probably just going to sacrifice the top one. It is very difficult to get to. And we can drop that free. Now we're ready to go ahead and put the front winch tray on the front bumper studs. The directions say to remove the tow hooks at this point, and we already did that previously. I don't think it really matters what order. They're easy to take off in the beginning, so I just as soon get them out of the way then. Probably another step that would be good to have extra set of hands, but it can be done solo as long as you're careful. Keep a couple of the nuts handy and just put those on hand tight to hold this in place so it doesn't fall off the studs. Next we're going to attach the front winch tray with the included 12mm by 35mm bolt. We're going to have a washer on each side, and on the back side is going to be our lock washer and our nut. This hole is initially not in view while this is hanging, so just lift it up, support it to get that bolt in, and we can go around the back side, get the washer, lock washer, and nut on. And it says do not tighten these right now until we're ready to position it. And those will get tightened with an 18mm wrench and socket. And we're just going to go real loose for now. And we'll repeat that on the other side. Studs are fairly tight. You could probably support the bottom of the winch tray with a jack, make it a little bit easier, but this was able to go in by hand. And I'm just going to get the nut started on the back side for now. In my case, I couldn't get the right side to line up with that bolt hole, so I'm going to go ahead and support it with the jack in place. And it's still pretty tight, but the bolt is going on. Next, we need to align the winch tray with the bottom holes that originally supported the tow hooks. And we're going to go ahead and line that up and insert another one of our 12mm, and this time by 45mm bolts, stacked with a washer and lock washer. I'm going to go ahead and get that in finger tight for now. And then on the back side, we're going to go ahead and install our skid plate support bracket. And that's going to be oriented facing the back of the vehicle. And we're going to go ahead and do that on the other side. And this is why it's important not to snug down those front bolts. This thing's got to align with these bottom holes, and it's a pretty tight fit. This vehicle's never been in an accident, but I feel like these front bars are spread just slightly, making this very tough to engage. I was able to get that bolt engaged by using a screwdriver to kind of pull back against the frame to get that hole to line up. Again, it's a very tight fit. Let's see if we can get the back one started. Hopefully that one goes on pretty easy. So we'll go ahead and get those snug down hand tight for now. Now I'm going to go ahead and mount the winch to the tray. In my case, I'm mounting a Badlands 9,500 pound winch. And the first step is to remove the control box for the top to create more clearance. In this case, it's just held in place with 4 Phillips screws. Go ahead and take those out now. Now we can remove our control box, and it'll buy us a lot more clearance. Now I'm going to go ahead and lift the winch into place. Probably easier again with two people, but if you're careful, you should be able to get it up there. I'm going to go ahead and bolt my winch in place with the four, I believe these are 10mm bolts through the bottom. And I found it a lot easier to go ahead and align those holes with a Phillips screwdriver first. And then they go in much easier. We'll go ahead and secure the winch in place with the four 10mm bolts through the bottom. And a little patience, you can get them to line up and engage in the capture nut on the bottom. And we'll just do those forehand tight for now. Be extra patient with the bolts in the back, because that square nut is very difficult to reach from the front. So you don't want to accidentally knock it out of the retaining channel. So in the case of the Badlands, at least this 9,500 pound winch, the included control box relocation bracket really doesn't fit this at all. But I have found that if you just remove the screws and slide it forward one screw hole, you can at least engage the back screws. And it seems pretty secure for now. Might run a zip tie or something through the front to keep it down, but I think that's going to hold just fine, and it's going to be well protected by the bumper. In the case of the Badlands cable winch with the steel cable, the roller fair lead looks like it mounts on the back of the bumper. I've already gone ahead and cold fitted it and made sure that there was clearance, and it looks like this is how it was intended. So we're going to go ahead and install the roller fair lead and secure it on now. Now we can go ahead and prepare our parking sensors to install in the front of the bumper. First, you remove the silicone outer seal, and it just peels right off. We're going to install the included adhesive foam seal. Just like that. Now we'll go ahead and insert the parking sensors into the back of the bumper, into those clips. Just push it in until it's flush, and then we're going to use the included foam rubber spacer. I don't really know if you need to use the adhesive on it, but I'm going to go ahead and peel that off, and then we'll push the cap down until it's snug, and we're just going to confirm that that's securely in place, and we'll go ahead and repeat that on the other side. Again, our foam gasket is installed on the front of the sensor. Push the sensor all the way down to the base. Install our foam rubber spacer. And and push that in place until it clicks. Next, we'll go ahead and install the rubber trim around the edge of the bumper by just pressing it in place. And we'll just go around the circumference. And it says in the instructions that you'll have some left over to trim off. We can go ahead and trim the excess off with some diagonal cutters. Okay, this isn't well described in the instructions, but we have to remove the factory bumper mounting brackets, and we're going to replace those with the included winch bracket support adapters. Those can be removed with these 4 13mm bolts. And we're going to retain this hardware to install the new bracket. Okay, in preparation for cutting the factory bumper, we're going to go ahead and remove the wiring harness. And again, we're not going to be reusing these, so I'm going to go ahead and cheat and cut the retainers. Feel free to fight with those if you got more patience than I do, but again, we're not going to reuse them. So we just need to get this out of the way for now. Okay, if you're like me, this is probably the part you've been most intimidated about. We need to go ahead and cut the lower part of the front stock bumper. And the instructions show to make a cut line that goes right along the edge of that front tow hook bracket. So I'm going to go ahead and mark a nice straight line using some electrical tape. And we're going to use that as our cut reference line. And I'll go ahead and repeat that on the other side. Okay, I'm ready to make my first cut. Instructions say to use a hacksaw. I'm not that patient. I'm using an angle grinder with a cutoff disc. Just be sure to go real slow. I've got a damp rag here to help control the buildup of any heat. I don't want the heat to get into the stock bumper area that's going to be visible because it could start paint peeling. So we're going to take our time. Obviously wear PPE, got safety glasses on, some cut resistant gloves, and no turning back from here. I'm going to make myself a relief cut on the front of this, just because I can tell there is some tension built up in this forming. Okay. All right. Let's see how that turned out. Cut looks pretty straight. Might have to trim that up a bit, but let's go ahead and cut the other side. Okay, time to go ahead and cut the other side. Alright, looks pretty good. A little bit of paint peeling on the inside of that. So again, if you're going to be using a cutoff wheel, make sure you are careful about controlling your heat. So we'll go ahead and clean that up with the flap disc and get rid of any sharp edges. Okay, we're just going to clean up that cut, make sure there's no sharp edges. Okay, nice and smooth. Go ahead and do the other side. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to go ahead and hit that with a little bit of red paint. It's not color matched, but I just want to prevent any rust from starting on those inside corners. Next, we're going to go ahead and reinstall or install the new CS1 bumper brackets. We're going to retain the OEM hardware for the two top tabs, and the bottom of the bracket is going to get secured by a 8mm by 25mm bolt, and we're going to stack it with washer on the bottom, pass it through, washer on the top, block washer, and then our nut. And these can be secured with a 13mm socket. Okay, we can move over to the other side. Okay, now it's time to go ahead and remount the factory bumper. We're going to start by removing the stock nuts from the front bumper support, and we're going to use a 21mm socket and impact to take those back off. Now the bumper is supported by those two bottom brackets for mounting the skid plate, so it's safe to go ahead and remove these. We'll go ahead and lift our bumper into place and hang it on those support brackets. Again, great time to have an extra set of hands if you got. Okay. Whew. That is a chore by yourself. Yeah, it already looks like I've run into a problem here. I think I need to go ahead and relocate this wiring harness to the back side of that factory bumper, but I actually have clearance. I think I can just go ahead and tuck it back in that way. I have the factory bumper supported by the left-hand studs, and I've just got one nut in place to kind of hold it in that location. This gives me enough clearance to get in and go ahead and reattach our wiring harness. And we'll go ahead and clip that back in place. Okay. Okay, because these new brackets are not self-indexing in any way, I'm going to go ahead and dry fit my skid plate to make sure that those are lined up. Because we left those rear bolts in loose, we can just slide those in place. And we'll see if our holes line up. Looks like we're good on this side. That's going to work just fine. And you can see on this side, I ran into a problem where it didn't line up. And had I been paying closer attention when I installed the bracket, probably wouldn't have that issue, but just go ahead and loosen up this bolt just enough. Tap this bracket into alignment. That'll make sure the bolt lines up. Now we know those bolts line up, we can go ahead and drop the skid plate. Not sure if it's going to interfere with the installation of the new bumper, but we'll just give ourselves some room for now. And we can go ahead and reinstall our tabs into our front mud flaps. And again, this is a 8mm nut driver. And we'll repeat that on the other side. We can go ahead and attach our parking sensor extension, and it just clips into that OEM slot like that, and we'll have an extension off to the left side of the bumper, give us plenty of clearance. It's good time to go ahead and tighten down our front bumper nuts. My bumper was kind of out of alignment the way it hung, so I was able to support this right side with a floor jack and get my clearance even on both sides with the upper bumper shroud. And we'll go ahead and secure those nuts down with our 21mm impact. Okay, we'll go ahead and reconnect our parking sensors. The left side doesn't need an extension. Got a little bit tight the way that interferes with the bottom, but if you're careful, it'll snap in place. And then the left side of the bumper is going to go ahead and use that extension piece. And then there's a little red tab. You push that in forward to lock that in place. And for now, I'm going to leave this loose. We're going to go ahead and attach the bumper, and then we'll secure all the wiring with some zip ties once it's in place. It's time to go ahead and start installing the new bumper. It's got these bolt plates with welded bolts on them. You can see it's pretty heavily warped from heat distortion. We'll see if that's going to cause problems here shortly. If we need to, we can put it in a vise and bend it back into alignment. Let's go on each side with the tab facing the top. Okay, since I'm working by myself, I kind of figured out a little trick. I was able to balance the bumper on the jack and then insert one of the bolt plates into the left side backwards to just temporarily support the bumper in place. The clearance on the back side of that bumper is difficult to get to, but I was able to get one nut on there, so the left side is not going to fall off. So we'll go ahead and flip this around, insert it from the back, and put on our washers and nuts. Okay, once you get one started, then the bolt plate will be held in place for the other two. As mentioned before, I did have to take that bolt plate down to the vise and realign it. The bolts were all splayed outward, and I put it in the vise and made them all parallel again. Otherwise it would not fit into the mounting bracket holes. We're just putting these on finger tight for now. There's a lot of adjustment, and I want to make sure the bumper is aligned with the stock bumper before we tighten those down. Now we can go ahead and move over to the left side. Okay, now that the right side is secured, I'll go ahead and remove the temporary nut from our bolt plate that was just holding it temporarily in place. Again, it's tricky to get back there, but with some patience you can get the nut back off. I'll go ahead and remove this bolt plate and install it from the back. Again, if we can just get one nut on there, it'll keep that plate from moving around. It makes it a lot easier to then get the other two. And once we get our bumper aligned to our liking, we can tighten those nuts down with an 18mm socket. I'm going to go ahead and get underneath and tidy up our wiring. Not going to get too crazy because I still need to install the light bar. We're not going to be doing that in this video. If you got the version with the light bar, check out the American Trucks tutorial on the Ford F-150 for the Barricade HD stubby bumper. He does a really good job of showing how to install the wiring. I have an aftermarket wire control kit that's going to make it non-standard, so it probably won't be helpful to watch that anyway. And there's plenty of open holes from the factory plastic bumper that we can run our zip ties through. And I'm also capturing that factory wiring harness on the top side to secure it with these same zip ties so that it can't migrate down from that upper bumper. Figured I'd try to get you a view of what I'm doing underneath here. Again, we got lots of factory holes to be able to run our zip ties through, so just have to get a little bit creative on how you route them, but there's plenty of ways to attach everything. Okay, I'm pretty happy with those. This wire still has plenty of room to flex and move around, and everything else is well secured. Go ahead and trim those off, and we'll move on to the next step. Next, we're going to install the license plate mounting plugs into these square holes on the front. They're just push fit. And we're going to mount the bracket with our, I believe they're 6mm button head screws. washer on the front. And those are going to use a nylock nut on the back to make sure that they're not backing out. And we can go ahead and secure those in place using a 3.5mm Allen and 10mm wrench on the back side. Well, looks like it's probably a 4mm Allen. Yeah. 4mm Allen on the front and 10mm wrench on the back. Okay. Now we've got our license plate bracket in place. We can go ahead and put the front grille piece on. And again, that's going to be secured with those same button head screws and 4mm Allen. Okay, that does it for the install. I think it turned out pretty good. It's going to look even better with our light bar attached. Yeah, definitely could be easier with an extra set of hands. All told, with some breaks, it took me about 3 hours. Probably could have done it faster if I wasn't filming. Few takeaways. The instructions are not very well written. There's a lot of gaps in there. So read them several times and really take your time on each step. Definitely either have an extra set of hands or plenty of blocking or cribbing to be able to support the bumpers in place as you go through those steps, because it is pretty heavy, especially if you've got a winch mounted on that winch tray. It needs to be well supported from the bottom. Thanks for watching our tutorial, and hope this is helpful. Good luck.